might be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, guys, I just saw the craziest thing ever. Okay, so y'all know we just uploaded that waiver wire running back video, and I went up, pulled it up on my phone to make sure everything was going to run smoothly. Noticed that the fantasy football players uploaded one right before us, and I mean, literally, when 1 minute, them uploading it before us, I think we had like 300 views in the first 6 minutes or something, and then they had like 600 views in the first 7 minutes. So we got like half the amount of views that they did in just that term of the short span, obviously, but throughout the end of the day, they'll just completely crush us. But that is just amazing. I could not believe it, and it's because of how many of y'all have the notifications on for the videos. Guys, there is nothing that helps this channel more than all of y'all part of the notification gang that as soon as the video is uploaded, y'all go down there, drop a like, leave a comment. I mean, guys, that is absolutely massive. Everyone who's hit subscribe and the little bell next to it, I owe y'all a massive, massive thank you. And that was like the craziest thing ever. I went in and texted a couple of my friends that I was like, oh my God, look at what just happened. That's insane. But anyway, let's not talk about that anymore, and let's get into a video that's going to be very hard to make, very hard to talk about. I do not want to really go into this, but we're going to have to. So it looks like Dak Prescott is going to be out for the year for this Dallas Cowboys franchise, and this is going to change major things. I mean, we know that we are going out there plugging as many Dallas positional players that we could into our fantasy football lineups. And now, I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like. They have Andy Dalton coming in, but let's try to make a video. And keep in mind, guys, I'm not necessarily going to be able to go out here and tell you exactly what is going to happen, but we can try to speculate on it, and we can try to just be a little bit more informed of the situation as is, and then what we can project down the line. Okay, so first, I think what's going to be the best thing to do is talk about Dak Prescott. I mean, let's talk about what he was able to accomplish through 4 games with this Dallas Cowboys organization. And now, guys, through 4 games, Dak Prescott was the quarterback 1 overall. And it wasn't really close. I mean, Josh Allen was sitting there at 2, but he was a couple points behind Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott was just on pace to look like he was going to break every single NFL passing record that there could ever be in existence if he continued the pace that he was on. But clearly, I mean, we were going to expect him to regress, so it's not like we lost the best fantasy football season ever, because that was unlikely to happen, but that was how historic he was in those first 4 weeks this season. I mean, he was going out there and consistently throwing for 400 yards every single game, something that was, I mean, guys, it was a show. He was going out there and he had Amari Cooper as the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy. He had Ceedee Lamb as a top 24 wide receiver. He had a massive blow-up game from Michael Gallup against that Seattle Seahawks secondary. He had Dalton Shultz. Whenever Dalton Shultz was that starting tight end for the Dallas Cowboys in weeks 2, 3, and 4, he was actually the tight end 5. I mean, he was supporting a wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 1 overall, as well as a wide receiver 2, as well as a flex wide receiver, and then a top 5 tight end. And on top of that, Ezekiel Elliott was a top 5 running back. These are all weeks 1 through 4. Just absolutely insane what Dak Prescott was able to do with this team. And now we are going in and trying to look at what Andy Dalton is going to be able to provide. And I think it's important to go in and look at what Andy Dalton did in week 5. And after Dak Prescott left this game, Andy Dalton went in there and completed 9 passes on 11 attempts and threw for 111 yards. So, I mean, this looks like a very, very impressive stat line, but we have to remember a couple things here. One, it's an extremely short sample, and it's going to be very hard to use this to project going forward. It is a data point that we can look at, but it's not necessarily going to be extremely meaningful. And 2, he was playing in a game environment where it was really going to make him go out there and air the ball out against this New York Giants defense, because, I mean, Dak Prescott, honestly, in this game, put them up for a very bad situation going in. But regardless, Andy Dalton came in here, and he did provide some just fantasy usage for the other wide receivers in this offense. And I just want to say right away, I think Andy Dalton is definitely a guy that should be rostered in every single fantasy football format. We've seen Andy Dalton be successful in the past with great weapons around him. I think we can see the same thing in Dallas this year. but he is going to provide nothing from a fantasy sense that we were going to see from Dak Prescott, because what was amazing about Dak Prescott is he was going out there and throwing for this great volume, and he had some rushing equity in this offense as well, where he could go out there and he could rush for 40 yards a game and possibly rush for a touchdown every other game. And we know that was going to drastically not only increase his floor, but his ceiling in fantasy football, because running quarterbacks are a cheat code. And now I think with Andy Dalton coming in, yes, we could see the same type of passing volume from Andy Dalton, but we are going to have no rushing equity whatsoever. So no, guys, Andy Dalton is not an elite quarterback by any means, but I think he does vault up into being in that tier with guys like Matt Ryan, guys like Ben Roethlisberger, who are going to be able to air the ball out to great weapons, but aren't going to have any rushing equity. So yes, let's get out ahead of this. Go pick up Andy Dalton on your waiver wire. I think he is a guy that could be a low to mid quarterback one for the rest of the season. But now let's get into the positional players for this team, and let's start it off with Amari Cooper. So like I said, guys, Amari Cooper was actually the wide receiver 1 overall coming into week 5. And yes, he had a horrendous game against the New York Giants. I actually was not able to watch this game, so I had to go in and I was doing research. I was like, what happened to Amari Cooper? Did he get injured? I mean, where did he go? And by all accounts that I read, no, Amari Cooper was completely fine, but he just took the back seat to the other wide receivers in this offense. He only ended up with, I believe, something like 2 receptions for like 20 yards. Just an abysmal performance from what was the wide receiver 1 overall. And now the guy that went out there and really stole the show was Ceedee Lamb. I mean, Ceedee Lamb, guys, I did not tell y'all to start him this week, and I apologize. I did not expect this game to be this high scoring. I thought we were going to end up seeing more production come from Amari Cooper. But regardless, this was a player that so many of us have on our rosters because he was our number 1 priority ad after week 1. We were going out there and telling y'all to aggressively trade for Ceedee Lamb. And every single game, it looks like he's improving. And I know I just want to kind of spend 30 seconds to brag real quick. Guys, I was actually able to go out there and watch Ceedee Lamb's most impressive I want to say football performance ever in the Cotton Bowl against the University of Texas in 2019. Yes, I went there. I do go to UT. I watched Ceedee Lamb just completely embarrass us, but it was a sight to see. And this guy has elite ability in terms of making defenders miss and actually just getting open before he even gets the ball. And now seeing Ceedee Lamb go out here at 21 years old, without no preseason, without the usual training camp, and I mean, guys, with great options around him, command this amount of targets, be this efficient with the targets that he's seeing, I think Ceedee Lamb could be the wide receiver 1 for this Dallas Cowboys team by the end of the year. I don't think it's going to be likely, but that is entirely in the range of outcomes. And Ceedee Lamb, despite Dak Prescott leaving this offense for good, Ceedee Lamb is going to be a must-start wide receiver for us going forward. I mean, just looking like an alpha in New York. It's just absolutely ridiculous what we were able to see from him. This is a wide receiver that we have not seen anything like in a very long time. I think that we expect Amari Cooper to kind of dip his production down to being a low-end wide receiver 1, and I think Ceedee Lamb is right there next to him. I think Ceedee Lamb could be a high-end wide receiver 2 for this offense. Now, with Michael Gallup actually had somewhat an impressive performance with Andy Dalton, but the problem here is I don't necessarily think that Andy Dalton is going to be willing to sling the ball far enough downfield for Michael Gallup to get consistent targets. I think we are looking at the very similar situation with Michael Gallup going forward with Andy Dalton than we were with Dak Prescott, because we know what we don't like about Michael Gallup in this offense is he is not working underneath whatsoever. He is their deep threat for this team. I mean, just something that is not going to be consistent week to week. Yes, he is going to have his blow-up games like he had against the Seattle Seahawks, but generally, I think that Michael Gallup is going to continue to be a wide receiver 4, a wide receiver 5, a guy that when we get through the bye weeks, you are going to be able to go out there and plug him in your flex spot just because you're going to be forced to. Like I said, guys, depth is going to be so important in a season where we are seeing possible COVID games. We are seeing just a higher injury rate, and on top of that, we are getting into the bye weeks. So yes, Michael Gallup is a player that still does have flex appeal, but I think with Andy Dalton coming into this offense, he is going to kind of go down and just be a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. Okay, now this is where I think we see a drop-off in the offense. I think that Dalton Shultz, who was the tight end 5 overall with Dak Prescott in weeks 2 through 4, is going to take a drastic dip. I don't necessarily think that we are going to see a ton of volume going away from Ceedee Lamb or Amari Cooper, just based on the talent that these two players have, but I think we are going to see the overall offense be a little less productive, and I think that production is going to end up coming from Dalton Shultz. So this is the one player that I'm willing to go out there and sell high after this Dak Prescott injury. I think that you can honestly kind of pitch it because we understand that when backup quarterbacks come in, generally they like to rely on the tight end position because they're very easy routes to target over the middle of the field. But I believe that Andy Dalton is a far superior backup quarterback to what we generally see around the league with guys like Kyle Allen. And I think that he is not necessarily going to lock on to a player like Dalton Shultz. We are going to see him willing to go towards the boundaries for Amari Cooper and Ceedee Lamb. Okay, now the last player that we need to talk about in this offense is going to be Ezekiel Elliott, who is the running back 5 going into week 5. And in general, I think that this is something that we're going to continue to see. I know this was probably very boring for me to say, but Ezekiel Elliott is just one of these guys that there is no running back in the NFL more durable than Ezekiel Elliott. He has his workload locked in, and if anything, maybe we end up seeing Andy Dalton be willing to check down to Ezekiel Elliott a little bit more this season. And if that happens, I think it's going to outweigh the potential loss in touchdowns that we could see from Ezekiel Elliott. But I mean, it's all going to kind of counteract because even if Andy Dalton is not able to bring this team to the red zone as much as Dak Prescott would have, maybe we see some rushing touchdowns that would have gone to Dak Prescott. I mean, obviously, they're not going to go to Andy Dalton, who has no mobility whatsoever. They're probably just going to transfer right over to Ezekiel Elliott. So, in general, I'm not necessarily moving my projections on Ezekiel Elliott whatsoever, and I think that we are going to expect Ceedee Lamb to be a must-start wide receiver from now on. Amari Cooper is going to come back down to earth. Michael Gallup is going to be a highly volatile wide receiver that you're trying to avoid, but sometimes you're going to have to put him in your flex spot. And Dalton Shultz, I think we are going to see his production really fall off. But thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, please make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Guys, it helps a ton. And I will be live streaming tonight after the game. And yeah, I'll see y'all there. I'll be live streaming Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. So guys, just come by and then I'll answer all of your fantasy football questions. But that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day.